Hi everyone, welcome to Evolved Being. I am Sheena Dressel, and today we are talking about relationships. I started a series, I think a month and a half or 2 months ago now, on relationships, and I'm talking about all the different types of relationships, and I'm talking about relationships in general. And I have a few episodes prior to this, so if you haven't checked them out, please check them out. If you're new to my channel, know that this channel is just about consciousness. It's about growing, it's about understanding, it's about conversations, it's about people being human, and understanding that there's like all these different consciousnesses and realities in our world right now. And how do we come together to understand similar things about being a human? And one thing I really like to do is break things down. I think in our world right now, there's so much information. There's so many different definitions. There's so many different concepts. There's so much that we take on and we read and we listen to, and whether it be in therapy or in books or in self-help books or in in what do you call it when you go to music festivals, or when you do certain types of psychedelics, or just these yoga and meditation and all these different things that are like bringing these new concepts of self-awareness to us, and we don't always know what they really mean, and a lot of times we throw these concepts around. So I think relationships is a big one. Actually, I know relationships is a big one because it's a lot about how we connect in this world. And there's so much trauma and hidden negativity and undiscovered truths about ourselves and others that's still out there. So it's about discovering, it's about unraveling, it's about unleashing those sort of things so that we can have healthier relationships in the future, so that we can have better bonds, so that we can teach our children better things, so that we can go into work fields, in career fields where we have better relationships and we can communicate to one another, and we can have different opinions and we can have different ideas and walks of life and still work with one another, right? So romantic relationships is what we're talking about today. Currently, that's really close to home for me. And a little background about me: I do come from a divorced family. My parents divorced when I was 5. Neither one of them have ever been remarried. They both have had many different partners throughout my life, and great partners at that. And they are both great people and both really loving people. Parent wise, they did the best they could and they always loved me, and I think that was huge. But in terms of modeling a healthy relationship as I was growing up, I didn't really feel like I had that. And I've had to learn that along the way. And I am currently in a relationship, a monogamous, hopefully long-term relationship. At least that's what we talk about. And I would say out of all my relationships, and I've had great relationships and I've had great love, but this is like the most healthy, thriving, conscious, communicative relationship I've had. And it's, I believe, because of the work I've done on myself, definitely the work he's done on himself. But as we come together in these like romantic relationships where we get to communicate, where we get to be ourselves, and it's still a work in progress. I mean, are we always 100% ourselves? Are we always saying exactly what we want? Are we always, being exactly the person that we want to be, or showing them the person that we want to show them, or being the person that we think that they want us to be? I mean, probably not, right? That's a process. And my relationship is still young and growing, and I think there's so much room for growth. But I think any relationship I was going to enter into right now, because of that personal development I did in myself, because of those choices I made, because I laid out values on what I want in a relationship, I was able to walk into one with an open heart, with full understanding, in a space of grace. And I think that's what we mean when we say healthy relationship. And I don't even like using the term healthy, because healthy implies that there's non-healthy relationships. And perhaps there are too much information around toxic relationships or trauma bonds right now. I don't really like those terminologies, because the truth is life just is, right? And we're not in this comparison competitive, or if we couldn't get out of this comparison competitive consciousness, we might find that we can step into just constant learning and growing and evolving. So there aren't really any toxic relationships. There are just people that haven't grown enough to that maturity level where they're able to recognize when a relationship is over or hurting us or hurting the other, or is out of necessity or need, or out of a want or an addiction, or out of a loneliness or a validation. And those sorts of relationships, yeah, they might bubble into that toxic relationship sort of consciousness, but the truth is really they're just relationships, right? They're just things happening. They're just people bonding. I don't know about you, but there's been some pretty lonely times in my life where maybe my relationship might have looked toxic, but having that other person made my life a little bit easier, because I wasn't alone going through those times. And I think that goes both ways. I've certainly been in relationships where someone might say that was toxic, but perhaps we were both just going to be going through negative things, whether we were alone or together. I'm not sure it was going to help either way. Both of us needed to get out of our own way in order to be a better human, let alone have a healthy relationship. So I think it's better to start to forgive ourselves and start to look at relationships and romantic relationships as just being a part of our growth and our journey. And when it comes to romance, the better part of it, I think that's the fun part. That's what I've always wanted. And that's what I always really was thriving for. But I had to get myself kind of in the right place and get out of my own way to have romance. You know what I mean? Like, I had to feel secure and whole. I had to love myself. And now a relationship isn't about convenience or leaning on another person or having someone there because I'm lonely. It's about what can we create together? And I think that's what I think of when I think of romantic relationships. Like, what can you create together in a relationship? Like, how can you grow as two people, as two separate people, and then as two people? And what can you do to make that beautiful? And so whether or not you feel you're in that next stage of maturity in relationships, or maybe you're kind of under that blanket of still rising above to feel that sort of health in your relationship, I think you still have the opportunity, if you're in a relationship, if you're in a romantic relationship, to create romance. And some techniques that me and my partner use, but I've just sort of seen throughout time, but I also use like on myself, or in terms of my own business, or my own lifestyle, is like having a value system, having values set for my relationship, having values just like I set values for myself, just like I set values for my career goals, just like I set values for my business goals, I set values for my character. I set values. I have an ethical code. I don't always meet it, and I don't always make it, and sometimes I have to change it, but I always set it. And then that way I know what shoes to fill along the way. So in my romantic relationship now, one thing we do that I think is really great, my partner always tells me that he loves, I hope he's telling me the truth, I'm just kidding, is that we have a date night. And I think because we both live busy lives, it's really helpful to come together like once a week, to bond and work on creating and cultivating and nurturing our bond. And I think that's huge. And for some people, you might be in a long distance relationship. You might be in a polyamorous relationship. You might be, I don't know what you do nowadays, but you might be in some wild relationship with many different people, or just one person, or you might live across country. But either way, cultivating and sending energy to that relationship is part of growing the relationship. And if you don't do that, if you don't set aside time because you have busy lives, then I think you're sort of losing energy and momentum in the space of relationship. And if a relationship is a priority to you, if romance is a priority in your life, just like anything else, your children, your work, your health, your fitness, whatever it is, your creative endeavors, you gotta put energy into that. You gotta put energy into that. And if there's anybody out there that hasn't really thought about that yet, I'm speaking to you because it's so beneficial and it feels so good on both parties' part to feel validated by a person giving you energy. If you're a business person and you've got a thriving business and career and you're in a relationship and you don't give a decent amount of time to your partner, but you give all your time to your business, yes, your business might grow, but your relationship might suffer. And then you wonder why someone is asking your attention. And then instead of placing it on the person, like blaming the person for needing something from you, you have to recognize that energy flows, energy goes to those places that you give it. And that's why things grow. So, no different in a romantic relationship. And I always say this because I don't always have time to talk about everything, but you have the internet nowadays. You can go online and you can look up how to create romance in my relationship if you're not there yet and you haven't learned it. Similar to me, I didn't have a model for relationships. So I feel like I had to learn it. I had to research it. I had to look to others that already had it and say, okay, what do they have? And how do I get that? And how, when I do have a partner, how do I instill that in that relationship? I remember this couple here in Vegas, a yoga couple I just always looked up to because I was teaching yoga alongside them for a long time. I remember asking them because they had been married something like 14, maybe, I don't know, I might be wrong with the number, but 14 plus years or something at the time. And I asked them, like, what holds you together? I asked those questions because I wanted to know, because I wanted that style of relationship. And they told me it was that they always grew together. And I think that's huge, especially for anybody in this self-realization yoga world where you do tend to grow and evolve quite a bit from year to year. It's helpful to have a partner who's open to growing alongside of you, or at least knows that you're going to be growing or is also growing alongside you, because even if you aren't in that world of self realization, you still grow and change every year. So I think that's a knowledge, that's information that we do need to talk about in relationships, because we are going to grow and we are going to shift and we are going to change. And that brings me to security. I mean, I think there's something about love that's not secure. Tony Robbins talks about it a little bit, and I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago that I heard it from him, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. But that love, true love, is not necessarily secure. And that's why a lot of people don't go after love and romance. They go after security and convenience and sort of filling these gaps and filling these check marks. And I think that's fine. I think that is a style of relationship. And I actually think that's fine. If that's your choice and that's what you want, and that's the consciousness and the reality in which you live in. But if you want more, if you want love, if you want romance, if you want to look into somebody's eyes day in, day out and feel like you're seen and heard and loved, and you want that extra um, special connection, it's not promised, but neither is life, right? We're not promised tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I don't know if my partnership's going to be there tomorrow. But am I so scared of that I'm not willing to engage with it, to try, to work at it, to move into it? No, not me. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind being worried a little bit if it's not going to work out, if I'm going to lose my partner to someone else, or if I'm going to lose my relationship to loss or to death, because I want to live fully and I want to be in love and I want to share love with people. And I think that's a bigger thing, right? It's not just about romance in our relationships. It's about romance in life, and knowing that this special world that we're in, this special life that we live, this authentic soul that we have, it's not promised. We don't know what the end is. We don't know what the shift is. We don't know what death brings us, right? Maybe you live in a reality or a consciousness where you think you know, but the truth is there's so many different ones. So there's really no way to know. That I think, and I will always tell everyone to just jump and to just go for it, because why sacrifice and not have the possibility of high amounts of joy and love and connection? And perhaps you can hold on to it through practice and more love and more connection, by being in it, by truly engaging with it. And that's the world that I choose to live in. And that's the world that I choose to talk about. And to me, that's romance. And a little bit bigger romance is that romance we share with life, that we are allowed to share with the other. To me, romance is knowing that nothing's happening by accident, that everything around us is engaging with us, that everything is true connection around us. And then when you get to see it in your partner as a mirror right in front of you every day in and day out, ooh, is that special? And that is what I'm talking about when I talk about romance. And that is what I'm talking about when I talk about romantic relationships. And I would love to hear about those of you that have that romance, that want to talk more about that romance, that are out there living romantic lives and living passion in relationship, whether it be a traditional relationship or a polyamorous relationship, or new different styles of things. I'd love to hear about that stuff. I'm such a I'm such a lover of romance and partnership, and it's something I will always talk about. And I work with people in their relationships in my client based practice. I love talking about relationships and helping people own their relationships. I'm a very hopeful person when it comes to relationships. I always think it should work out, truthfully, even when it seems difficult and treacherous. I just think that's our external is an internal projection. So there's always possibility to just simply step out of that consciousness into something new and really start to realize a world that promotes and supports and treats us how we should be treated, with love and care and caress and passion. And that's what I have for you today. So yeah, hang tight. I got one more on relationships. We're going to talk about relationship to spirit in the last episode, and then I'm going to move on to something else. Definitely check out my website, evolvedbeing.com. I'm coming up on some travels here soon. However, I have the internet. So if you're looking to talk a little bit deeper, to work on your own practice, to work on yourself, to find your creative outlet, to find your truth, to find your authenticity, that's what I do. I work with people to do that stuff. So I'd love to work with you. Please sign up. Hit me up for a consultation, and we can talk about how to be your truest self and how to be the truest to yourself. Otherwise, check me out Instagram, Facebook, and obviously this YouTube channel. Please hit like, subscribe, and yeah, keep following me. Thank you.